So, Ash, have you ever thought about the kind of dad you would be? Has that thought ever crossed your mind?
I have.
Tell me about
A
it.
lot, actually.
Tell me about it.
Because for me, I think that we live in a country where we failed with parenting a lot, So I'm thinking, what can I do differently for my own kids? So, how do I prepare my kids to be able to face the responsibilities of life,
Okay.
right? And for me, what that means is we live in a country where the constitution says that at 18, a person can go to jail.
True, you're an adult, I mean.
Exactly.
So you should be held responsible for your actions.
Exactly. So, unfortunately, we have the sort of parenting where at 18, your parents are completely in control of all of your endeavors.
They still feel you're a child.
Exactly. So it must mean there's a problem. If the constitution says we can go to jail at 18, and at 18, my parents don't feel like I can be living by myself.
And you can make certain decisions.
Exactly, then it's a problem. So for me, I'm thinking what to do differently for my kids. How do I raise them in such a way that they can handle themselves by the time they are 18 and they can be clear about what life is about? And
Okay.
then they can have a clear understanding of what morality is, right?
Okay.
How morality really is not a law, but they should have morals as a people.
What was your upbringing like? Growing up, what was the experience like?
Well, for me, growing up was many things because one, I didn't grow up to my parents, right?
Oh,
I
okay.
grew up with other people. I had some time with my parents, but I started actively staying with my mom when as an adult.
Not as a child.
Yeah. By the time I was 2, I was already living with other people. So in my formative years, I pretty much lived with other people, and I saw the things that they did, the way they lived their lives, and the way
And it's
they
not
treated
something
their
you want to
kids.
replicate.
Not at all. I feel that, lots of times when people ask for wisdom, I think that sometimes you learn wisdom by the people you share space with, just recognizing the things that you shouldn't do and the things you should do. So for me, pretty much, bulk of the things I learned, I got pretty much from just sharing space with people who were not directly my family. Just seeing how they live their lives, how they raise their kids,
But
basically.
but but are there some of the things you like to inculcate in your own, upbringing for your kids?
Definitely, I think one common ground that you'll find with most families is everyone loves their kids. So
Okay.
you want to pick that
But
up. Everyone wants to
love,
be responsible to their kids as well.
when you say love, I feel like our parents had a very funny way of interpreting their love for us.
But it's love regardless. And I don't think that there is a one size fits all type of way that people would communicate their love. We are
Okay.
all going to communicate it differently based on, what we hold as important. And there are loads of times when growing up you can misunderstand the interpretation of your parents' love until you
Yes.
become an adult.
Yes, and
Then
then you
you
you fully
understand.
understand.
Yeah.
But I also feel like the world is evolving, right? The style of parenting has changed, and that's why I asked you the very first question. Now there is the old school pattern, especially when it comes to discipline. I got so many, response, as regard their own experience when it comes to their parents disciplining them, the flogging and all. And most people were like, in as much as they will use the rod, if I'm to use that word, on their kids, they will also have to communicate with them, talk to them, find out why did you do this, and also let them know for every time I'm going to discipline you, this is why I'm doing it.
Okay.
And I feel that is one part that our parents did not really do. So you do something wrong and you get punished. Sometimes they don't even tell you what you did wrong. And I also feel like personally, everything or every wrongdoing does not warrant you being flogged. That's what I believe.
Well, you flogged a lot.
Ah, my mom was a teacher,
Oh,
but then
nice.
my dad was the
My mom was a teacher
disciplinarian.
as well.
That's the irony. My mom was the teacher, but my dad was the disciplinarian.
Oh, oh.
I mean, talk, cane, belt. Well, I know I was stubborn, but then, and for them, it felt like that was their own way of showing us that they love and they care about us, right? But now let's relate it to parenting of today. Do you think that style will still work?
So the thing is, loads of times, right, it's easy to blame our parents for how they manage to express themselves. But we must make excuses for them because knowledge as we have it today is not readily as available, wasn't readily available the way in their time, the way that we have it now.
Okay.
So bulk of the things that they did was because of a knowledge gap. If they knew better, they would have done better.
So are you saying most of the things they did were out of ignorance?
True. Bulk of it was out of ignorance, as far as they were concerned. You know, there's a time when you think that the what you're expressing as light. Okay, let me say it this way. There are loads of times when what you're expressing as light could be darkness because you don't know.
But from your own perspective, you feel is light.
Exactly. So
Okay.
if a child grows up in a home where his father comes home and he has to be loud about everything, who kept this cup here, who put this thing here, and he imbibes all of that. In his family, he might replicate the same, thinking that he's doing the right thing. Until
After
he
a
gets
high was raised.
exactly until he gets light in that direction. So for lots of the things that our parents did, they did because they thought it was the right way to go. Now we know differently.
Okay.
Now we know better. We know that you mustn't use the cane to
Correct,
lead,
yeah.
right? So we can generally expect to do better as a people.
But do you think without the cane, without the rod, do you think you would have become a better person?
No, once you're supposed to collect. It's important.
So it's important.
Yeah.
We must do with the rod.
Yeah.
Whether
At
we,
some point. Yeah.
whether we get to sit and talk.
It's
with
not
them.
in our tradition. I don't know about the West. I can't speak for them. I think that they have their motivations for the things that they do. But in our climb,
Yeah. You must
say your head, someone said something that there are lots of things he stops doing because he remembers his mother's slap. Like, when you remember that slap, you go behave. So I think that...
It brings you back to default setting.
No kidding.
But I feel like people also said there's a way you discipline a child that it crosses the line from discipline to abuse.
True.
So how
Very
do we
true.
check that? Because I feel most people from our generation, from our time, what they experienced was abuse, not discipline. Because our parents went overboard. I mean, I've seen parents say, I'm going to put a mark on you so you show it to your children. That was when you were so age and you did this.
So the question is, how did we come here where we now recognize that doing that is wrong?
It's
knowledge
abuse,
different?
it's assault, yeah.
So now we know better. Growing up, I think that there's something that maybe many kids today would lack, right? And I'm not saying that the way that we're beaten was right, but it gave us mental toughness,
Okay.
right?
It helps shaping their minds.
Exactly. That's why today kids are easily depressed. Someone said that they had invited him to school and they were talking to him and telling him how he needs to hug his child more because the child was lacking love.
Wow.
And in his mind, he said, if I slap this boy... They claimed he was underperforming because, you need to be more endearing and stuff like that. And he's like, see this one.
So did he take the advice?
No.
So that's a parent that is coming from our generation, right?
Because for this parent, he knew that the child wasn't lacking love. He knew. Because he was giving love. He was available. He's someone that you call a really available father because he was really present in their life. No, I'm telling you because I know.
So
I know that.
What did he say the child was lacking if it's not love, according to, the school management or whoever spoke to him?
In answering that, I'm going to speak to something that I think that married people apply. Some married people apply, which is the fact that when you're disciplining your kids, when each party is disciplining the kid, the other person gets to be quiet, right? You
to
don't
show
say
that you support.
You don't say, even if you think that is wrong, you don't say it in the presence of the kids.
Okay.
Right? So this person beats the child and he says, why are you beating? No, don't never do that. You can privately tell them that I don't think you should have beat them up. But
Okay.
So I think that applies. So in this situation, this guy knows that there's a difference between being loving and also correcting the kid when the kid is wrong. In the school, they can be over applying one of it
Above the other.
Yes.
Okay.
So maybe your kid is going to a school where they don't believe in
Spanking.
They think the kid should be sent to the naughty corner. That's what they do.
Or you take away their snacks or something that's a guilty pleasure or something.
And for them, they know that this child now deserves some, So for him, when they got home, he said he did the needful. And the child responded,
Spanked him.
yes.
Wow.
It's like, if you come back here again and I hear you underperforming, you will get it hot. But that's the thing. After all that discipline, you're still kind to the child. You're still loving. You get to sit down with them, eat, have a good time, play their favorite game, and let them know that you love them. That was what he was
So you
doing.
just need to keep them in check.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So we're going to take some of the responses we got
Okay.
from this same question on Instagram. So I have a message from Tega. Tega said, me, I don't even know that if they've ever thought about the kind of parents they would be. That's for single people like us. She goes, me, I don't even know, because these children, sometimes you feel like your parents could have done better. Then you look again and say, they tried though. Me, I just tell myself when I reach that bridge.
Oh, nice.
I think sometimes I tell myself that too. Because I feel like you might actually prepare, this is the kind of parent I want to be. I want to learn from my parents' mistake. I don't want to replicate what they did to me. And then the kid starts coming and you find yourself doing completely opposite of what you've planned.
Yeah, life happens. Life happens. But to not prepare, to not have contingencies around life happening would be the most serious undoing that you can do to yourself, because when life does happen, you still have to get your job done.
True.
Right. So not preparing to raise your kids and leaving it to chance is not
Leaving
is
it
not, is
when
not,
when you get there, you know what to do. It's not the best thing
you
to
have
do.
to consciously prepare for those kids. I'm sure there are loads of people who already have names for their kids.
Yeah.
How come you have names or you're not planning on how to raise them? You need to be
Interesting.
conscious and start making the plans. When I do have kids, it's like the same way you make plans for yourself, right? Let me say, the good book says that kids are like arrows in the hands of a man, meaning that the direction you shoot them is where they're going to go and how far. So you're literally going to determine the trajectory of the child. If you're not making that plan, how are you going to pull it off? It's like saying, I want to be in a relationship but no plans. When I meet the babe, I go, no, I could do.
I'm exercising faith.
But
Okay,
you have to know, you have to prepare. Be
another
conscious.
person, Selena Edwards said, I know for a fact I'll replicate my mom's style of parenting. Only difference is I would listen better to my kids and hear them out before landing those glasgows. So she's all for using the rod on them, spanking them, but then she's going to listen, which is something I feel her mom did not do.
Okay, so with that as well,
Yeah.
there are going to be many levels through which you would raise a child. There are times when the child is just a child. You
just
really
let
have
them
to
be.
curtail their nuisance
Okay.
at that level. You're not going to sit down and tell a 2-year-old, this one, that one. No. That's
going
not
to
what you should
spank
do
them.
at that point, right? But they will grow to a point where you can have conversations.
Okay.
And now you can tell them why they are getting disciplined for what they are doing wrong, right? And I also think that parents should find the balance between spanking a child for what you don't like against spanking them for doing something wrong. There are lots of times when you're being disciplined for something your parents do not like, not because it's wrong, but
because
they
they
don't
don't
just
like
it, right? So finding the presence of mind to know the difference is important. Now, all of these things, if you don't know, you now get into parenthood. You might just do
Becomes
the
tough.
opposite, and you can relapse into what you know, which is how you were raised.
It's
Right.
easy. It's just easy to relapse. And also to put it out there that kids are different. Even twins.
True,
There is no two persons that behave alike
true.
when it comes to their, display of their character and all.
Very true. So what you said is critical, because lots of parents want John to behave like Andrew. Can't you see that
That was the
Andrew?
next message I was about to read. So somebody said, she said, growing up, her dad did lots of comparison between herself and the sibling,
Okay.
and that did not help her at all.
Okay.
And that's something she would never do to her kids.
Okay.
Making one of the one child in the home as the standard, as the yardstick. Every single time you're saying, can't you behave like your brother?
That is
Can't
not
you
right.
behave like your sister?
That is not right.
And that can also affect their self-esteem.
See, that thing comes off as a threat more than it comes off as inspiration, because you want to inspire that child in their own difference. Just recognizing that John is different from Andrew, right? Andrew can know how to sit down and behave like an adult, but John is a little bit scattered. You need to know what their motivation is, right? for the way that they behave and allow them grow like that. Because this is what happens, right? There are loads of people who say I'm introverted
Okay.
because of beating.
Oh.
They were not natural. They were never going to be introverted. It was just priming from their families, the way they beat them, the way they asked them never to go out and
They were
stuff like
boxed
that.
up.
I was pretty much raised like that. I used to watch kids play.
You just sit in one
I,
corner.
I, I think of myself as an adult. Like, what are they doing?
That's weird. That's weird.
And it was because of priming. Like, you're not supposed to do that. There was one time I went to what's it called now? To a lake with some of my peers. I was watching. These kids were in the lake having fun.
They were having fun, the time of their life.
I was
And
watching.
they were your age mates.
Yes.
Okay.
Then their parents come to fetch them and now told my own parents that I joined their kids. They told them that I was watching. That this your son, good boy. He did not even go near the water. He was just watching the beating I got.
For just watching.
The kids were wondering, should this boy swim, Abina? Because they can't understand.
Why you're getting beaten for
Why is
something they
this
did?
Why is this guy? They were beating as well, but the beating I got was more.
Double. Wow.
For my parents, it was about why did you even go there in the first place? Who said you could go to a lake? Go and do what?
You want to die?
So these things, all of these things are some of the things that shapes our reality. Understanding all of these things. So if you're not careful, you're looking at your life and you're like, why am I? What's going on? Why do I have to be like these other people? Now, for those parents, they wanted their kids to be more like me.
Okay.
For my own parents, they're like, why did you even go in the first place? Right? You have no business being this type of person.
Yeah.
Now, if you now narrow that down to your home and say you have 2 kids,
Okay.
you want them to behave alike. So you're constantly using one to compare to the other. Why don't you behave like your brother? Someone recently said she has a kid who can read and play.
At the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
That the child can be kicking something and reading. But that what she observed was every time their result was out, the child performs well.
Than those that will focus on one thing at a time.
Exactly. No. The other one would perform well as well.
Okay.
The other sibling who is very calculated also performs well. But she said for her, she noticed that trying to stop this child from being the way she is could impede her from performing at a peak level, right? So she decided this is just what this child is about. I'm just going to let her do what she's cool with, as long as she can perform at a peak level. So just having that understanding is critical. This play, is it affecting the child's performance, child's outputs? No, it's not. So why not just let them? They'll come to a point where they would no longer play like that. They would outgrow those things. But how many parents have the presence of mind to even think in that direction? That's the point.
So
but now we know better. It
even start from observing the child.
Yeah.
So many parents, they're not observant.
They don't.
They're not.
They don't. They just see the one that... And you know the thing? Funny enough, sometimes the kid that is calm and calculated does not even behave like any of the parents. Behaves like maybe some sibling of the parents.
Somebody in the family.
Exactly. So, like, this guy behaves like my brother Andrew. He's very calm.
But they will never tell that kid. Rather, they will say...
2 of them are rascals.
No.
And they have the other one that is a rascal. And they will not say this one, now what style this one they follow. They will never say it.
I did not kill my parents, you will not kill me.
Exactly.
All right, Ash, thank you so much. Thank you for doing this with us. Thank you for sharing your experience. We're going to keep the conversation going, and definitely on the next episode, I'm going to be speaking with a parent. Yes, let's get their own experience. Let's hear them share their thoughts with us. All right, thank you.